Dafydd, and I have lots of questions to do with fabric treatment coming up. So if we get ready for those, perhaps you could begin by telling me about Trevira and its FR properties.
So I'm gonna answer the question above that, which is how do you create an FR fabric? And we'll come to Trevira as part of that. So there are two ways that you can achieve an FR, a fire retardant fabric. One is through a coating. So if anyone has ever asked for a fabric to be treated to crib 5, it is coated on the reverse, and that provides the fire retardancy. The other way is to use what's called an inherently retardant yarn. An inherently retardant yarn is one that is, I always, because I don't want to get into the science of it, I always say it's a bit like it's genetically modified. So as you are creating the yarn, you add something into the yarn that means that that yarn is fire retardant for the entire lifespan of that yarn. Now that yarn, Trevira CS, is a brand name for one manufacturer of inherently flame retardant yarns. It's a bit like sellotape versus sticky tape. Both of them do the same things, and there are other manufacturers of inherently flame retardant yarns. Trevira has just become synonymous with the product, but they're not the only way to achieve an inherently flame retardant yarn.
And one of the questions that's come in is, does Trevira cover all FR standards?
No. So this fits really nicely into what I think will be the next question, which is about the pros and cons of both methods. And am I right, Alice? Can I delve into that to answer?
You can, yeah, absolutely.
So using a coated versus using an inherent yarn, there are pros and cons to both. But the main thing to think about is what the end use of the fabric is, as to whether using inherent or using coated yarns is a pro or is a limiting factor. If you are making curtains for a commercial space, or you are specifying a fabric for a commercial space, the benefit with an inherent yarn is that it is machine washable or dry cleanable certainly, for the lifetime of the yarn. If you were to coat a non-FR fabric and install it as curtains, if they were cleaned 4 or 5 times, the fabric is no longer fire retardant. Now, if you think about curtains in a hotel guest room, you really have to hope that they clean them more than 4 or 5 times in the 7-year lifespan of a hotel design. Obviously, if you are thinking about a huge lobbyway and you've got 7-meter velvet curtains spanning multiple drops, they're not going to take them down and put them in the washing machine, so it's less relevant. But the absolute benefit of an inherent yarn is machine washability for curtains, or dry cleaning for curtains, the ability to clean curtains. On its own, it's very uncommon for inherently flame retardant yarns to pass a crib 5 test. And the reason being, yes, part of the crib 5 test is whether it sets on fire, but the real issue with a crib 5 test is the ability for the flame to not travel from the surface through the fabric down to the foam. And that barrier, that coated application that you apply, is what actually provides that char barrier. Now, if you were to take an inherently flame retardant fabric on its own, it does not provide that char barrier. So Trevira doesn't cover all manner of applications because it's unusual, not impossible. We've got, I think, 2 inherently flame retardant fabrics that pass crib 5, but it's very unusual for an inherently flame retardant fabric to pass crib 5 without additional treatment.
Standards are different, and you can't say that because one meets say even medium hazard in a contract setting that it's suitable for use in a domestic setting.
I think, Phil, just to jump in for a second, one of the things that we're really conscious of is when we offer testing on our fabrics, we won't just certify to one standard, we'll certify to all of those standards. So despite the fact that we have a fabric which we know will pass crib 5, we will also test it to the domestic standards as well. And this is where I'd say that the fabric manufacturers on this case can offer that reliability by providing those certificates. If you have people that can do that, then you're kind of halfway there in terms of the choices you can make.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the option to treat to FR, but there's also the option to use an interliner. Could you just explain a little bit more about what an interliner is and when it might be beneficial to use one, as opposed to looking to have the fabric treated? Dafydd, perhaps.
Okay, so I'll answer this question, and it'd be great to have Phil's input.
Absolutely.
A fabric interliner does not work to provide a crib 5 pass on a piece of furniture unless the fabric itself has at least, and I believe the percentage is 75% natural composition. So for example, wool. If you're working with a polyester, you cannot just apply an interliner to the piece of furniture and expect it to pass crib 5. And the reason for this is one of the things that the fabric is required not to do when it's tested. No, it can't catch on fire. No, it can't allow the fire to pass through to the foam, but it also can't drip onto the floor and thus cause other problems. And a polyester is ultimately a plastic, and if you've ever got your bottle of salt a bit too close to the hob and watched it melt in horror, that's what a polyester would do unless it was held together with a treatment rather than an interliner. So you have to be really careful with the application of interliners.
What's changed in the last 5 years in FR yarns, and how has designing technical fabrics changed?
I just wanted to say, to start with, although we've talked about all these regulations that you've got to meet and you've got to work to, that doesn't mean that the design aesthetics of the fabric has to be compromised. FR yarns and fabrics have moved on so much in the last 5 years, 10 years, and it's really opened up some doors for us to be able to develop some really beautiful fabrics. It's actually quite exciting, and it is bringing some exciting possibilities to us. We're creating new things all the time, which is great. I think one of the biggest step forwards is the amount of IFR yarns that are out on the market. There's a wide variety of different mills producing those yarns as well. We've touched on that many years ago it was just Travera, but now there's lots of companies out there that are developing those yarns. And what that's doing as well is giving us the capability to work with those yarn companies to develop our own yarns as well. So as a company, we're able to give them our specifications, whether it's the technical specifications or whether it's a design specification that we want to work to. We're able to give that to the yarn manufacturers and our mills, and they can create that for us, which is great. The FR shiny polyester yarn that we used to see quite a lot isn't necessarily the FR yarn that we do see now. We're actually able to develop a variety of different FR yarns, and we can emulate natural products. So we're able to emulate cottons, wools, and give the fabrics that real natural dry look that we're seeing in the residential market, which is really good. We also work with our mills in partnership. So we have a number of mills that are very innovative, and we work very closely with them, and we use their knowledge of manufacturing fabrics to help them bring our design and vision to life. And that's given us the opportunity then to actively approach these mills and work with them with our technical knowledge of FR fabrics and FR qualities to then build on both of our knowledge to then develop some really beautiful FR fabrics. And that has meant us being able to produce more residential look qualities, which brings me into the kind of qualities that we are seeing within the FR industry now. So we know we can use a much more varied range of yarns. We've got great partnerships with the mills that we work with. We've got our own expertise in designing and creating FR fabrics, because we've done it for a number of years. And with all that, we can guide our mills and we can push them to the boundaries of their capabilities. And then that's allowing us to design and develop much more innovative fabrics than we did 5 years ago. And in that, we're seeing that we are now able to develop embroidery fabrics. So the embroidery fabrics that we've developed recently have been at 100% IFR. So the base of the fabric and the embroidery itself is all 100% FR. So with that, we're not damaging the technical aspect that we need to meet, but we're also being able to develop and design beautiful fabrics. Velvets we've seen move forward, so we've seen a variety of qualities and designs that we're now able to develop. We've got mohairs that are IFR that we've been able to develop, cotton look velvets. Prints move forward as well, so we're seeing digital print has come through on the contract side as well, and they have developed the inks that are now suitable for printing onto IFR base cloths, and that's given us the ability to use more intricate designs, get colour wash effects in the fabrics, just really beautiful fabrics that are now possible with all the technology that we have these days. We're also seeing finishes as well that have improved. So a couple of years ago, Dafydd said to me, can we do stain resistant finish on a velvet? My answer would have been, I'm not sure. Now, yes, we can do that without affecting the look of the product. Stain resistant finishes now we apply to pretty much most of our upholsteries, and what that's allowed us to do is make the fabrics more durable, and I think more F&B environments are now able to use velvets within those environments, which is great.
Emily, I think one of the things that has really jumped on, sorry to interrupt for a second, is that we had that question very early on. It's no longer a choice between being limited by FR fabrics or using something that isn't FR. You're not having that limitation anymore when you're selecting a product that is inherently fire retardant.
Fantastic. Are Trevira fabrics less or more sustainable than standard fabrics? And are there any innovative developments being looked at to make Trevira a more sustainable offering?
So Dafydd and I had a conversation about this, and it depends what you're defining as what sustainability is. So what level you're looking at that? Is it the longevity of the fabric? Is it the fact that it's made from recycled content? Is it the fact that the mill isn't using much water? As we know, Trevira is just a brand of FR product. It's not the whole FR range. And I think on this question that we need to be looking at FR across the board. FR yarns are a polyester, and in that sense, in most cases, they can be recycled. And we have come across yarn manufacturers that have actually said that they will take the fabrics back at the end of the life and then recycle them. So that's one good thing that we're seeing coming through. We're also seeing a big move in sustainability. So when I'm developing a product, I've got technical aspect at the top of my list. It's got to meet a technical specification, whether that's for drapery or whether that's for upholstery. But what I'm also then asking the mill to do is, can we look at sustainability? So can we use recycled yarns? Is there something you're doing within your business that is meaning that you are more environmentally friendly? So it is at the forefront of everything that we are developing as a business now. We are working with mills across the world, and they are all looking into this. There's one mill that we're working with in particular, and they work with us exclusively on IFR yarns. And we challenged them probably about 18 months ago to say, can you produce us a fabric that is using recycled content? And we're happy to say that in the next few months, we'll be launching 2 fabrics that do have a recycled polyester, IFR polyester in there. And we're also working on other products with that that company as well. We're also due to launch a wool product next week, which we're very excited about and feel very proud about, because we have had sustainability at the forefront of this product. So we've decided to manufacture this product with a UK mill. They're only on our doorstep, literally only in Saddleworth, a beautiful village within Saddleworth. And the fabric is woven, dyed and finished within this mill. And the yarn is actually produced in Saddleworth as well. And the fibres, the wool fibres within that product are also from British, mainly from British wool. So it's got a really good carbon footprint on that product. So we're quite excited to be launching that next week. We're also looking at Crib 5 as well. How can we be more sustainable, more eco-friendly with Crib 5? We're challenging our mills to use halogen-free coatings. This is something that we're seeing coming through on the domestic market quite a lot, and is starting to filter through now into Crib 5. So this is something that we are working on with several mills, with existing products and new products. And what this also will mean, changing this coating, is that at the end of the life of the product, those two, the Crib 5 barrier and the face fabric, in some circumstances mechanically can be separated, and then both of those components that can then be recycled. So that's another aspect that we're looking at. But also I think it's important to look at not just the fabric sustainability, but the business sustainability. So what our business is doing as a whole, and Dafydd, I think, would agree that as a business we are trying to be more sustainable, reducing our plastic usage, we're recycling our cardboard. We're looking at our mills as well and talking to them about how are they being more sustainable as well. So it's looking at the bigger picture, not just one area. So I think, does that answer the question? Is there anything you'd like to add, Dafydd?
I think, and this could form its own series of webinars over a period of time. And in fact, at lunchtime, I spent an hour listening to some very, very clever people talking about this. The thing about sustainability is to remember that, I'm just reading the quote from earlier, is to remember that primarily it's about the climate and the climate of the earth. And that's what you're trying to change. Now, recycling yarns is a small part of that. If you look at a restaurant, the two biggest things that will make the difference in sustainability for the restaurant are where they source the food and what they do with the food waste. And it's, as a business, we have to take decisions that say, well, sustainable yarns are important and we will work to do that. But what's our equivalent of food waste and where we get our food from? So we've done things like removed all of the tubes that we now use to wrap our fabrics in, our recycled cardboard, all of the plastic that's used to cover that is recyclable in the same way that you recycle your Waitrose carrier bags. In the last 6 months, we've saved use of over 1 million plastic bags by changing the way we package things coming in from our mills. It's really, really hard to write a press release about that and get everyone excited, but those things play a really, really big part in supporting the journey of sustainability. And the yarns that come along are important as well, but they're one aspect of it. And it's really important to get the whole thing together.